Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Season 3.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It is Season 3.
It is. Look how far we've come.
I know.
I know.
We were just sitting at this table
2 years ago.
2 years ago,
Right.
going like, let's try this. And then the show was born.
That's right.
Wanted to, yes, the show was born. They were born, and they are, I feel like they're like a preteen right now.
Yeah, you know. So they like age in dog years? Is that
I
what
guess,
we're doing?
maybe so.
Okay,
Maybe the age is
great.
in dog years.
So we're feisty and angsty at this point is what
A
we're
little
talking
bit,
about.
I guess so.
That feels about
and a
right.
little bit like really starting to,
For the state of the world, I feel like, yeah.
for the
The angst is
certainly
real.
angst is real.
The angst is real indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and we, what a whirlwind, non-summer we had
Oh, for
of doing
real.
nothing.
I know.
And
We
did
saw a
some
lot of
things,
each
yeah.
other
We did see a lot of each other, a lot,
because we, melded our ecosystems.
we did. Yep.
And so that we could be around each other.
Right, because people need friends. It's true.
Oh, Lord, especially now.
And we did some very brief travels that were in safe areas
That we're very close by.
we were very considerate about and
Oh, yeah.
agonized over for long periods of time. Which Dusty
Agonized
will,
over.
I'm sure, tell you at length. I was the one that did a lot of the agonizing.
But I
so-
mean, rightfully so.
right, because travel
I feel
in
like
the time
we
of COVID.
had
Yep,
giant eyes
we did.
and then went, okay, let's go back down to the earth. My instinct is to just like see if we can make things happen.
Right,
And your instinct is to say
to just
no.
be dour all the time.
Emily Dickinson writing your
That's right.
poetry in the darkness. No, I think yours is saying, no, let's create circumstances where we don't feel like we are in over our heads.
Oh, that's right. Because who were we talking to? Sister Rulebook herself.
Sister Rulebook herself.
Yeah,
That's right.
that sounds about right for me. Yeah. So we did a little bit of traveling. We did a lot of camping, which we're going to talk all about
Yes.
later in the season.
Yes,
'Cause
camping.
camping, what a thrill.
What a special new kind of thing that I didn't know I would love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. You were just, you like were a pig in shit after that first trip.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it.
Yeah, I think we were both here for it.
Oh, yeah. We were both here for it.
So we rounded up our season later than we anticipated because some things came up that we wanted to discuss, and here we are again.
Here we are again.
We never left. So we are headed back into the wilds of our beautiful country.
That's right.
And we are starting our season off with actually chronologically where we left off in season 2.
I know.
Yeah.
Which rarely happens that
Yeah.
we do like one park and then another. I
It's
mean,
true.
it happens occasionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we rounded out our season 2 at Capitol Reef National Park and headed toward Mesa Verde National Park.
Looking for adventure, I want to follow on the trail, or get a little lost and let the wind fill my sails. Get up when the stars still fill the sky, don't wake the sun, there's so much to be done, and the day has just begun. Go where the postcards are real, you can feel, you can open your eyes and open your heart when you gaze at the national parks. At the national parks. At the national parks. Follow you, I'll follow you there.
So starting with this episode in season 3, we're going to begin our episodes with our native land acknowledgement. We deeply believe in acknowledging the native land on which we were hiking and visiting, and also the native land in which we are recording an episode. We have always included a native land acknowledgement. You can hear it in the credits, but we think it's really important that it's heard right up at the top. So while hiking on the trails of Mesa Verde National Park, we were on the traditional and stolen lands of the Pueblo people and the Ute people.
So let's dive into Mesa Verde. Mesa Verde was established June 29th, 1906. So they are a Cancer.
Oh.
Water, nowhere.
Nowhere. Not there.
Not there. And that is potentially part of the reason why those native peoples left those spaces to begin with. It's something we're going to dive into in a later episode.
Yeah.
The park is best known for archaeology, bird watching, eagles, hummingbirds, and turkey vultures are there, and hiking. Although I have to say that this is mostly a park for seeing archaeological sites and not so much for hiking.
Mesa Verde was established as a national park precisely to preserve culture.
Right, because of the Antiquities Act, which
Yes.
Teddy Roosevelt signed, which if you want to do a deep dive into Teddy Roosevelt and his history with the national parks and the racism that surrounded his conservation, those episodes can be found in season 2.
That's right.
So, Mesa Verde, most of the sites of the park are kind of up on the mesa itself. So you have to... When you drive in, you're at kind of street level, I guess is what I'll say. And then eventually you wind your way up to Mesa Top Road, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in a bit. Let's talk about where we started our morning.
Yeah. So we left Capitol Reef National Park, which was essentially Torrey, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
We left Torrey, Utah and we had to go back into Colorado because we had left Colorado
from Black Canyon
and gone to Capitol Reef, did 1 day in Capitol Reef.
Yeah.
If you listen to those 4 episodes, we actually did all of that in 1 day.
Yep.
And then we got up this day and we had actually thought about doing a hike that morning.
Oh, I had my heart set on the Sulphur Creek hike.
Yeah.
I was just like, well, if we get up at like 4 a.m. and we have headlamps that we don't have, but that we used the night before and our flashlights on our phone, we can do this, because it really did seem like a really wonderful hike. We've since had people tell us that they were in Capitol Reef this summer. They did it and they really enjoyed it. But we also thought about doing the petroglyph panels that are basically right off of Highway 24 there. It's like a boardwalk trail to those petroglyphs, because that is Dusty's bread and butter when we're out
I love them.
in the world of national parks. And you were like, I think it's okay if we don't do them. And I was definitely a little shocked about that. Here's the reason why.
But
there's a big reason. So we were spending 2 days in Mesa Verde, and Mesa Verde, as we said earlier, is well known for its archaeological sites. There are 4 main sites that you can see: Cliff Palace, Spruce Tree House,
Longhouse, and Step House.
Right. There are a variety of other smaller sites that you can see or see from afar that are large but can't get to. But those 4 sites are kind of the main archaeological sites that people kind of look to when you go there. Now, some of those sites, and we'll talk a little bit more about them, are non-ticketed. You can kind of walk through them. However, the ticketed sites, you cannot buy a ticket online. You must buy a ticket in person.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of come up with a game plan for what we were going to do. It was going to take us, I think it was like another 5 hours to zip back from Torrey to Cortez, which is basically exactly where Mesa Verde is. We really needed to strategize, and we didn't want to risk doing a hike early in the morning and then risk getting to Mesa Verde and there being no tickets left.
Yes. Also, things to consider at this time was that we had the day before done all 4 of those epic hikes in Capitol Reef. And the day before that had done the Tamichi Road.
Right.
So we were tired.
Yeah.
And so I think at that moment I was like, if we don't do the petroglyphs, it's fine. Because my body was just locked up.
That is the theme for the day for me here in Mesa Verde was exhaustion.
Exhaustion.
Like, exhaustion came for me in all of the ways. I don't think I slept great at that hotel either. So the tireds were like approaching and like living inside of me and setting up like nests essentially. So we decided against any sort of hiking in Capitol Reef. That morning we headed out. Now part of that trip back took us through Moab. So we were like, maybe we just we have our national parks pass. Let's just go up to Arches real quick, or let's just drop into Canyonlands.
And we were like, no,
we can't.
Not with time.
No, if there was more time, if time was infinite in our favor, then yes. But we definitely
But Moab holds a special place in our hearts always, especially because
hiking mamas.
We met hiking mamas there.
Yeah.
Go listen to those episodes, and then you'll hear all about
feel
them.
the love.
Feel the love.
Yeah. So, but this took us back. We also passed Goblin Valley State Park, which was something that was
something I've been
highly recommended for us to do. When we were at Capitol Reef, the ranger had recommended it. We passed the entranceway to it, or at least the road that would then take you there. And so that was like a gut punch, because that would have been something great to do.
Can I tell you, I did take a photo of Goblin Valley State Park because as a terrible dad joke, if I'm teaching students and I'm away, I often tell them, if they're like, oh, where were you? I'm like, I was fighting a goblin. That's what I say all the time. And then I took a photo of Goblin State Park.
The sign, you mean?
The sign.
Yeah.
And these are usually 5 to 8-year-old students who roll their eyes at me and go God, you're so dumb. And they're like, okay, all right, what story are you going to tell us now about this goblin? Great. You know? But I did show them, I was like, yeah, no, literally Goblin Valley State Park. And they looked and they were like, in their faces, it was like, okay, we know there's no such thing as goblins.
Right.
But there's a place called Goblin Valley State Park, and you took a photo of it, and this is what you're offering as evidence? Yeah, okay.
Just epic eye rolls.
Yep.
So yeah, along our drive back, we also passed, and this was something that we noticed, I think, on our first trip, the hole in the rock, which is like a roadside attraction. That's literally just a hole in the rock, and it's painted, like a giant painted sign on it, the hole in the rock is here. And I think I just always giggle at that.
I know, because we had seen that when we were out there
before.
Yeah, we were headed south toward what was Painted Desert, Petrified Forest.
It's coming this season.
Yes.
Had the giggles about that for sure.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Also, God, I love roadside attractions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's so super kind of lame Americana, I guess.
I know. I'm here for it.
I hope the people at Hole in the Rock don't come for me for that.
I know. It's fine. It's fine.
But the drive was lengthy. I feel like we didn't even talk to each other that much because I think we were just so tired.
It was so early.
Yeah.
What's funny is usually I can sort of remember some of the content of what we speak about or talk about or
the music we listen to
or what. I don't remember anything from this drive.
This was
to Mesa Verde. We were just
spot.
I think we talked a long time about just what feeling tired was like.
Right.
So
dealing with
tired.
Exhaustion.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so funny how conversations evolve as we grow older.
Yep. After the lengthy sort of drive, we ended our time on the road at the visitor center of Mesa Verde. So,
which is a fabulous, gigantic, beautiful visitor center.
I think when we talk about visitor centers at the end of the season, this is going to be the one where it's just we're going to come back to it, because holy cow, it was unbelievable to just see how well built, beautiful, it was clearly brand, for the most part, brand new. It's a newer visitor center. The architecture of it, there was that statue at the outside of the indigenous person, it's kind of almost on a bow. It wasn't a bow, but it was the structure that he was standing on was he was climbing up. And so that was something that first greeted you. The restrooms were separate from the building.
They were beautiful.
They had all of these informational panels in this breezeway between the main building and the actual restrooms. This was a museum and visitor center where it was we spent a lot of time. I feel we really invested the time
and
the money
honey.
there. Yeah, the money, honey.
To bring that one to life. Yeah. And I feel it's a beautiful space, and I feel what is the stories and information presented in that space is pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
So they also have a beautiful gift store with there was a lot in that gift store.
Yeah.
I remember I looked through and I I personally was looking for, specifically regarding, projects that I do.
Yep.
Is
oh, you were like really into that.
The book section of this gift shop had lots of Native American legends, mythology, folk stories by Native American authors.
Right.
So that was really important to me. I like zoomed right in and I was like, okay, you're proving to be a great resource here.
Yeah. It's a very large atrium space. The museum itself was great and beautifully designed. There was a big map, like a topographical, like sort of map in the space that was large too, that kind of showed like you an aerial view of the park itself. And then there were the ticket windows, basically. So,
and there were lots of dioramas.
Right. There were lots of dioramas. I do remember that. This is kind of the first visitor center, I feel like, where it did feel like, I don't want to say like amusement parky, but like there were like ticket windows to like, this is like, you could buy your pass there too, but it was like, clearly Mesa Verde sees a lot of like action.
A lot of people
there weren't
come to
that
Mesa
many
Verde.
There weren't that many people when we were there at that moment in time. Clearly it's a lot of people go there because they have the capacity to handle that many people, and especially with how big the visitor center is. Like that was one of the largest visitor centers I feel like we've been in.
Right.
So I think it can handle the volume of people. Also, talking about like and remembering being in spaces like with people, it's very foreign to me now, living in the time of COVID.
Yes.
I'm like, oh God, what were we doing? Like thinking about like, I'm like, oh, that was before this year.
That was before.
Yeah.
Like I was like,
it's very strange.
How do I remember going in there and experiencing that?
Right.
Because it's an indoor space and there's so many people inside.
Right. We approached the window, and this is where, these are rangers that are working at these stations. We were like, listen, we'd like to get a ticket for one of the archaeological sites. And he was like, well, the only site that's open right now is Cliff Palace, because the road that you would need to take to get to
Longhouse and Step House and Wetherell Mesa was closed.
Right. Colorado had received like historic amounts of snow that particular season that we were there. We didn't really feel that in Black Canyon. We didn't really see it in the Estes Park side of Rocky Mountain. When we were in Grand Lake, obviously, we dealt with it. There was actually a big storm that had rolled through like the week before we had gotten to Colorado. So unfortunately, the way that Mesa Verde is and the way that the roads are, this one road, which runs basically from Mesa Top Road, which will take you to the Wetherell Mesa, which is called Wetherell Mesa Road, it was closed at that point. And I think it's closed from basically September through May. So we were there in April. So there was no chance of that happening.
No.
So we talked to the ranger, and he was like, so yeah, the only thing that's available is Cliff Palace. And I believe there may have been some tickets available that day, but it was a weird time because we wanted to hike, and it didn't really fit into what our plan was. Right. So we were able to get, I believe, for the next day, 2 slots on the 2:00 tour, as I'm pretty sure it was like in the afternoon at some point. And then we talked to them about hiking. So at this point, he brings out the map, and which we're looking at right now, he highlighted a ton of stuff for us. And he was like, listen, Mesa Verde is, there is some hiking. It's really known for its archaeological sites, but there are some hikes. There's going to be a lot of snow on some of these hikes, so it's unlikely that you're going to be able to do a ton. So he marked up the map for us, and he was like, these are the sites that I suggest. You can drive Mesa Top Road. That'd be a great start. Good luck. If you have any other questions, feel free to stop in.
And so that's sort of where we were left. We were like, okay, let's make a game plan. And with that, let's take our first break. Okay, we're playing One Has to Go.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Right.
I think we played this on like episode 1. Remember that? 5 million years ago?
Yep. Mm-hmm. This time has no meaning.
Here we go.
Yep.
I'm ready with mine.
Okay, great.
One Has to Go.
Mm-hmm.
Long drives.
Okay.
Long flights. Mm-hmm. Long lines.
The rest stay.
The rest stay.
Oh, there's pain in all of those.
There is.
But I don't mind long drives, so long drives can stay.
I don't either. We've said many times we fully enjoy long drives.
I'm going to say long lines must go. And I will keep long flights because just standing at that Avis counter for a million hours the first time we took a trip just sends shudders down my spine.
Let me tell you, there's waiting in line.
Yeah.
I don't love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say long lines too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since we're headed into the autumnal season, I figured that this would be inappropriate. One has to go: pumpkin spice latte, apple cider, or mulled cider.
Ooh. I really love all of those things.
I know. I made it hard for you.
So it's specifically a pumpkin spice latte.
Or a pumpkin spice whatever. We'll say pumpkin spice chai, pumpkin spice.
So pumpkin spice as a thing.
As a thing.
And then...
as a beveragey thing.
Oh, okay. And apple cider is a beveragey thing. Mulled cider is a beveragey thing. Yep. God, I do love mulled cider. I feel like it doesn't get as much play as the other two.
Should.
And I love it. But it has to go.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Booze.
Well, I'm going to keep pumpkin spice because you know what? It's great.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. And I don't like it when people come for other people about it. I think it's dumb. And I also like apple cider stuff.
Yeah. I just feel like
cider.
Yeah. I feel like pumpkin spice is fine and all, but it's just like not anything that like I ever totally latched onto, but I do like that sort of like warm cinnamony kind of like pumpkin-y feel. I feel like apple cider is too sweet for me these days, so I'm going to say goodbye to her. Plus it gives me gas.
Oh, that's why. All right.
There you go.
There we go. One
Two
has to
truths and a
go.
lie.
So we left the visitor center in the car. And on the map, way down at what looks like the very top, but it is actually, a little easier to think of it as the very bottom.
Right.
Is the visitor center. But it is at the top of the map when you are looking at the map of Mesa Verde. And so we knew that we were going to be driving on top of the mesa and seeing Mesa Top Ruins Road.
I believe this was a point where I was driving because I know your fear of roads.
Actually, I think what happened is I started driving, saw what was happening, and was like, I cannot do this. Yeah. And then you were very gracious, and I pulled over, and then we switched.
Sounds about right.
But speaking of, this day, as soon as that happened, my entire body went, zoom.
Yeah, power down.
Ooh, power down in this moment.
Yeah.
I was struggling just to keep my eyes open and stay awake and alert in all of the things that we were about to do.
This is sort of reminiscent of Black Canyon for me and that day too, because I feel I think when you're in a park and you're just driving and stopping, it's sort of the same when we did the driving stops at Arches. I definitely am like, well, this isn't as interesting and my body's tired now. It's like, I'd rather be on a trail and I'm awake and alive and there's oxygen.
Yes.
So I get it. I think I was also tired, but I was driving on a precipice essentially to try to keep us alive.
Right. And you were like a pro.
That's right. Even though apparently I get made fun of all the time.
Well, I'm complimenting your driving this time.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yep. So
it's genuine.
It is. Heading up the mesa, you do get onto Mesa Top Road, and it is a very, very curvy, windy sort of road. It also felt very much like Skyline Drive in Shenandoah. There were those vibes that I was really feeling too.
And I found the map to be very accurate as far as the curves and the distance and everything.
Right. Mesa Top Road will take you to either Wetherill Mesa Road, or it'll take you all the way down to where Balcony House and Cliff Palace and Spruce Tree House are.
So Mesa Verde, if you were thinking about this road, is right toward the beginning of, or the first third of this road is all these different lookout points. Then you have the fork in the road. If you were to head to the right of the fork, that would take you to Wetherill Mesa, but that was closed. And then head to the left, you have this long sort of open road for a while. And then the end of that is all of the other archaeological sites that Mesa Verde is known for.
So what we decided to do is sort of head as far out on the road as we could which is like something we did when we were in Black Canyon, to the furthest point out and stop there and then wind our way back. Because the hike that we were going to do was actually, we had passed it on our way up, where we were going to like actually stop and hike. The first lookout that we went to was the geological overlook stop. And I just remember like it was cold and it was very windy.
Yeah. We put on layers.
Yeah. It was definitely like a day for like lots of layers here.
And a day for sneakers.
Which,
I mean, for a while.
For the first part anyway.
Yeah.
I don't really remember too much sticking out there for me. It was definitely a point that we stopped at.
Yes, any overlook on this road has a beautiful sweeping view
of the valleys that are, it's either the Mancos Valley or the Montezuma Valley.
Yes.
So you're kind of getting either of those, which is, they're incredible, which we would also get later on the hike. We started to drive our way back and wind back. And the next point that we were at was the Park Point Overlook. Now, Park Point Overlook, each of these stops, also similar to Black Canyon or the Gunnison, has a small hike that you can take out.
And it's very small.
It's very small.
It's very, very small.
But at this point, this is where there is a fire watchtower.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we learn a good deal about the fires that have happened in the park, and the fire history and what the watchtower was meant for. And we would see some of the landscape that's burned. This is also mapped out for you, like and very like there's placards kind of all the way around this fire tower. So it kind of maps out like here's where this burn was during this year. And then when we were driving later the next day, these were sites that we were actually able to see, or burn areas that we were able to see. So that's a great stop too, just for kind of getting the history of fire history in the park. And it was a great lookout point too. This one was a little bit longer of a jaunt, and I just remember it. I remember from the parking lot up, it was like a pretty steep incline.
Oh, it's very steep.
And I just remember, again, the tires were there.
The tires were there from the beginning.
Yeah,
and so as we were on our way out to the geological overlook, there was discussion of like, are we going all the way out to that one or not? And then we did.
Yeah.
Which, I'm glad we did. I'm glad we saw all of them.
Right.
After the Park Point overlook, working our way back was the Montezuma Valley overlook. Note, all of these have restrooms at them, unlike Rocky Mountain National Park.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So Montezuma Valley overlook, it was very windy at this overlook. This was the one where like you could stand there. We stood there for a minute. It was really windy, and there were some other people right nearby.
You could walk out.
And you could walk out, and there was
sort
like
of
a
along
tiny
the
little
cliff edge.
trail along the cliff edge to the right.
Because then there was a ruin that was further out. That there was also, this is also, it had a periscope. So you could look, and it was free of charge. You could look through the periscope at the ruin because it was far enough away. You kind of needed it to get a closer look. All of these sort of overlooks really felt like the parks that we'd been to before that have had these sort of like stop and go moments where you can stop and really take in the view. And it did feel like a lot like Black Canyon in the ways that you're stopping and getting these views. Canyonlands even, there's plenty of overlooks in Canyonlands and Shenandoah.
Yep.
And it really gives you a great sense of being able to take in the surroundings. So there are some hikes in the park, which we are going to talk about. But honestly, at this point on the road, there's no hiking except for these little jut outs that you're taking from one point to the next. That's something that really didn't give us much to energize us. So hence the tires just sort of continued on.
Yes. But we knew that this was all headed toward eventually doing a hike.
Right. Which was back towards the visitor center.
Right. Yeah. And there were a few over there. But the one that was recommended to us was the Point Lookout Trail.
Part of the reason that was the one that was recommended was because some of the others that were right there, which launched from the campground and parking lot, there was a lot of snow based off of how those areas were shaded, how that part of the trail was shaded. So the ranger was like, listen, you can try it. He's like, I know Point Lookout's going to be clear. I've heard reports that it's clear. I know that some of the other trails that are there, like there was a much longer trail. it was the Prater Ridge Trail.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's going to be real snowy and it's going to be real muddy. So if you want to do that, and I think the both of us sort of had like a PTSD moment from Grand Lake.
A little bit. The other trail that was over there that we didn't do was the Knife Edge Trail. It was like a 2 mile out and back. Both of them looked great. And I'm sure that, when they're not covered in snow, they're really fun.
Right. So what that left us with is what the ranger suggested, which was the Point Lookout Trail, which was 2.2 miles out and 2.2 miles back. So almost 4.5 miles altogether. At this point, it had gotten a lot warmer and we had parked at the Moorfield campground and it was time to stretch and hit the trail.
Yeah. And with that, let's take another break. It's time for Drag Corner.
Yeah, it's time. The time has arrived.
Ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, please welcome to the stage.
Diorama.
God, I love that one. Diorama.
Brought to life by the dioramas of the Mesa Verde Visitor Center.
That's right.
She was born there, and that's where she retains her power. and any museum where there's a diorama.
Maybe so. Maybe her merch is like a tiny small doll of herself. And it's
that.
like a
Polly Pocket-esque play
yeah,
kit.
perhaps so.
Like Polly Pocket goes to the national parks.
Maybe.
What
Are we
market
saying
have we
that
started?
Diorama is a national park queen? Officially?
Oh, yeah. Why not?
Oh, okay, great.
Aren't they all?
I don't know if they all are, but she certainly
She
could
could.
be.
She's got the merch line lined up.
She does.
She does. Yeah, diorama. So yeah, I think everything she does is like rooted in perspective, like scale and the changing of scale. So there's a lot of pageantry. It's like a Ryan Murphy production.
Right. Tons of pageantry.
Right.
So she's like an art perspective queen.
Right. So there's like her act has like forced perspective, like the stages that she's on.
Yep.
So it looks like she is like really tiny and far off in the distance, and then she comes and she's like really big, or vice versa.
Oh,
like,
interesting.
I think there's like something to be said for that. Like she doesn't change size. That's impossible. I mean, unless we're living in fantasy. But I think the forced perspective gives the viewer the idea that she is.
And how is that like connected to dioramas? Or is it?
Well, I think because
it doesn't have to be
scale, because of changing scales.
Oh,
of things.
because I see.
Yes.
So she plays around with that in her act.
Totally. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. There you go. You can.
What if he was on our side?
Right. So yeah, and I do think like there's like a little bit of a nod to like, toys. Like I feel like that, like because of the small size of things and like doll clothing and things like that, change of perspective. Maybe like there is this part of her act becomes a dollhouse, or the dollhouse, like she starts and there's so many ideas. They're exploding.
There's a lot of ideas. She's very geometric in her planning, I guess. Okay, great. What song does she lip sync to?
I mean, I feel like Barbie Girl is like probably like on the nose, but
I think so too.
Yeah.
Our House in the middle of the street.
Could be Our House.
It's not really a lip sync song.
No. I was going to say Everybody Wants to Rule the World, but Tears for Fears is not lip syncy either.
Not really.
No, unless you dance jam it.
I think Barbie Girl could work, especially if like that's her thing. If she's like Barbie, but like math, then
Math Barbie?
a math Barbie, then maybe that could work. So we're sort of leaving the idea of like, she's not necessarily national park queen. Like she's not like inundated with references to national parks.
No, but I feel like she could like in her merch, like, do you know what a Polly Pocket is?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I feel like she could have like Polly Pocket. I mean, are we both gay? Yeah. Right. I feel like she could have those as like, those would be like play sets, but it would be like diorama goes to Canyonlands, and then you'd open it up and there would be like a Canyonlands landscape,
Oh, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Let's get the merch rolling.
Oh, I see. All right.
Right. Her signature drink is a teeny martini.
A teeny martini.
Right.
A martini.
Sure.
Ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, please welcome to the stage.
Diorama. We park in the Moorfield campground parking lot. There's literally no one else in this parking lot. They were moving
they'd made part of the parking lot like a storage area,
like a staging area too.
Yeah.
Wasn't it for picnic tables? I feel like they were moving stuff.
They were moving a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And there was also like tractors and, that kind of equipment.
So it's clear that like we were early visitors to Mesa Verde in the season. Because this was not the time nor the place for a lot of hiking to be taking place.
Yep.
So we geared up. I think we both like snacked at this point because we were like tired, hungry, which is like the best kind of hungry.
The best kind of, yeah, sure. Great.
It had gotten a lot nicer out at this point. We kind of like when we were there, it was a little bit of a gray day and like sort of like kind of overcast with the sun kind of coming through. And it was windy and it was cold, but the sun decided to poke its head out a little bit more. So while we were layered up, we definitely were like, okay, this is going to only last for so long. And I think at a certain point, we definitely de-layered on the trail because it was a lot warmer.
Yeah, I remember the trail was pretty flat when it started.
Mm-hmm.
It was like through a field.
Yeah.
Is essentially what you were walking through at the beginning of this trail. Through a field, and then it was switchbacks. They weren't like the steepest of switchbacks.
But yeah, I think we were tired.
But we were tired
Right.
and we were like, okay, there's switchbacks. And we were just like, all right. So I remember at this point, it was definitely like a beasting through switchback situation.
Right.
It's just like up, 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 up. At one point, we were like, we have to play some sort of mental game to keep ourselves awake and alert.
This was also like the point where it was like, oh, it's very warm. And
Yep.
Off come the layers.
Come the layers.
Because I think we were down to probably shorts and a t-shirt at this point.
Yes.
Because it had like warmed up considerably. And basically you're sort of on the side of like, I guess, a hill or a small mountain, essentially. But basically we were in the sun and cut off from the wind at this point as we were climbing up. It definitely got a lot warmer and stayed that way. This is also a point where we're able to see these, like on the way up, we kind of look behind us. The parking lot is very far below. Like it didn't take us a lot of time to gain elevation. And I feel like we gained a considerable amount.
Oh, we gained plenty.
Also, part of this was there was no snow. We really were in the best advice the ranger had given us is like, there's no snow. Take this hike. It's going to be great.
And it was totally clear and right in the sunlight and
it was not too rocky and it was a pretty sandy sort of trail. Eventually what happens is you sort of wind yourself up to this like very flat area at the top. This is a very level flat section.
Yes, it was. And it kind of stayed that way the rest of the way.
Yeah. This is also where you see everything below you. This was like an excellent hike to be recommended, especially in a situation where there wasn't a lot of hiking to be done because the view at this point from Point Lookout is spectacular. Just all encompassing and sweeping. You were definitely like, I'm not going near the edge of that. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go. I'm always the one that's like, I'll go closer. Like, let me poke the bear. But actually not really. The view was just like, just seeing out was incredible. This is also a point now that we are off of the switchbacks where the wind decided to make a reappearance.
She returned. Definitely.
Yeah.
The thing about Point Lookout is you can actually see it from when you're driving right out of the visitor center.
Yes. And so reflexively, you can see the visitor center.
High.
Yes.
Yeah. It looks so high in the air. And then like when we got up there and you could see the visitor center from up there, I was like, oh, this is that spot.
Yeah.
This is that spot they were talking about. It was really high up.
Yeah. And it was really, really cool to be up that high, to be able to see all that, and then to also be like, hey, we were down there, a little while ago. Anytime you're on a hike
and
where
you
you're
could
gaining
kind of
elevation.
see the parking lot.
The visitor center parking lot?
Yeah, you could see the visitor center parking lot and how tiny everything was down there.
And the road too. So, most of the rest of the hike up here is, like Dusty said, it's pretty flat. Once you get up to Point Lookout, you can actually kind of go a little bit, like you get up to the top, there is this flat area where you see a lot of the valley, and then you kind of hike a little bit more, and that kind of brings you to like the main viewpoint where you're able to see more things. But along the way too, there was, do you remember these like ruins that were up there? Or it was almost like the footprint of a building that had been there at some point. Mm-hmm. So that was something that was also at the top that was like a really sort of fascinating, just like we didn't expect on our hike, which was great. I think it sort of was a little bit of energy for us to see what we were going to see the following day, because at this point, other than the ruin that we saw from afar at the one overlook, we didn't really see any ruins at this point. I think this was also the first park where we were seeing like archaeological sites that were Native American archaeological sites.
Yes.
Right? I don't think we
not necessarily on the show. Like I feel like we've seen some things in the show prior to this moment. But in real life, yes, it was.
Yeah, this was it was really like, it was a different park for a lot of reasons, but this was like a definitive point of excitement, because it was like, what will this be like to see these things in person? Because I feel like I'd seen the photos of Cliff Palace and
certainly
Spruce Tree House before.
I mean, if you Google Mesa Verde,
those are the things that are going to come up. So there was definitely like a real excitement about what the next day was going to bring. We spent a good deal of time up at the top taking photos, but the wind was so like brutal up there, because we were like essentially exposed to everything, that we didn't spend like a ton of time up there. The hike back down was like pretty easy. It went by
pretty quick. I remember like flying through that. I was like, oh, this only felt like doing like a mile worth of work.
Right. But I think it was also like, after having been tired and hiking up, it was a welcome reprieve to go down, and to go down pretty easy, because there's times that we've gone down a steeper hike where it's craggy and there's small rocks, and it's just like a pain on your feet. But
Yosemite Falls.
Yeah, to name drop. But I do feel like this was an easy hike to navigate in all senses. As we kind of neared the bottom, I felt like it didn't really feel like it was 2.5 miles, or not 2.5 miles. Well,
it was 4.4 at that point.
It didn't really feel like it was, close to 4.5 miles.
We said that out loud too. We were like, that felt shorter than 2.2 miles.
Right. At this point, it was probably mid-afternoon. I think if we had a little bit more energy, if it wasn't getting late, because it was still early in the season, I think we maybe would have attempted like to do the knife edge, or to do part of Crater Rim.
Yeah, part of it that would have maybe been clearer.
Right. But I do feel like, similarly to, I keep bringing up Black Canyon, but this day was really reminiscent of it, in that we did all those viewpoints, and then we did a hike at the end.
Yep.
And it was kind of the same formula, and it worked well. And I do feel like that hike at the end did give me enough of a burst of energy to not feel like I was going to totally fall asleep.
Agreed. It sort of like rejuvenated me a little bit too.
And with that, we made our way out of the park, and we headed off to our Airbnb.
Let's put the Point Lookout Trail on the Karen Stone scale.
Great. I'm going to say 3.
I was going to say 4.
Great. So a 7 out of 20. Yeah, I feel like it's accessible. I mean, the only thing that might be tricky is just there is some incline to deal with, but I didn't feel like the trail was like unkempt or unmanageable in any way when it comes to like your footfall.
Yeah. I mean, that section of switchbacks is, I remember looking at it going like, oh, these don't look like they'll be that long, but they were long enough.
Yeah.
They were certainly long enough.
And the top part is pretty flat, and you get great views. So it's definitely a trail for as short as it is. If you're in Mesa Verde, you find yourself there in a little bit of a warmer time of the year, then it's definitely a hike that I would do, and I would do everything else that's around that campground area because I'm sure that it's great. But I can't know that for sure until I head back to Mesa Verde and do those trails.
That's right.
And now let's do some Jeopardy style trivia.
Okay. Who would like to go first?
It don't matter to me.
Why don't you start, Mike?
Great.
It's been a while since we've written trivia.
I know.
I mean, since we've written, some Jeopardy categories.
Style trivia categories.
Yeah, exactly. Because Jeopardy is a show that has a trademark.
Right.
We are just doing questions in the style of Jeopardy.
Right, exactly.
For a while during quarantine, we're doing them every night on
For
Instagram
like about
Live.
a month.
For like a month.
Yeah.
And I've never written that many categories of Jeopardy in my life.
Yeah. It was a lot. It was like also like the intense thing. It's like, oh my God, I have to get this done.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Like a race to 8 p.m. or whatever when we
whatever
would do
time
them.
we do it. What a time to be alive.
I know.
Great.
Okay.
So let's do Jeopardy. So this category is all about points and points that you can get on things in your life.
Okay.
I can't really give you an example because the ones that I have are going to basically start things off. So I'll go ahead and start with 100. Okay. Reckless, drunken, and speedy are words that relate to these types of points that you do not want.
What are points on your license?
Correct.
Your driver's license?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Okay. Gas, groceries, and restaurants are all words that will give you these types of points that most adults would really like.
What are rewards points?
Right, or points on your credit card.
Or
Perfect.
Perfect.
Right.
Great.
Lender, rate, and percent are things that relate to these types of points, which can help you out in the long run.
Is that like equity or like...
You're in the right neighborhood.
Like mortgage points?
That's right. Mortgage points.
Great.
There you go. I know this is like a very sort of bland category. I wanted to make it easy because I know sometimes I don't.
It's okay.
Calculate, gram, and habit are all words that relate to these types of points that people across the country utilize in their health journey.
Calculate, gram,
and habit.
Habit. What is Weight Watchers points?
That's correct. Very good. And finally, for 500, this is a $500 clip.
Okay, great.
Big green sign, high occupancy toll, and fork are all terms that you might encounter when using this app, which apparently you can gain these types of points on depending on your usage.
Oh, is it Waze points?
That's correct. Very good. Points of interest.
I love Waze.
I love Waze.
Not an official sponsor.
Right.
But could be. Okay. My category, Mike, are you ready?
Sure. I'm ready.
Is called Looks Like It Rhymes.
Okay.
So these two words look like they may rhyme, but they do not rhyme.
Okay.
So I do have an example. So this is what you might feel if you encountered a grizzly on a nature trail.
Scary Berry?
Nope. Bear is one of the words.
Okay.
What's another word for scare? Or scared?
Frightened bear?
No. It's another word for scare. What's the feeling word?
Scared?
Another word for scare. What's the noun version?
Scared?
No. For the record, okay. We've just recorded 2 episodes in a row. And like at the beginning of this one, he was like, let's just do the third one right after this. And I was like, I think we might need a break. Case in point. I think we're going to need a break.
Can you repeat the directions?
Okay.
Please?
They look like they rhyme.
Okay.
So it's 2 words that look like they rhyme,
Okay.
but they don't rhyme.
Okay.
This is what you might feel if you encountered a grizzly on a nature trail. The answer we're looking for is bear fear.
Oh, I see. I got you.
They look like they rhyme.
Got you. It's like not a homophone, essentially. Like, not that they would be homophones in any way, but the rhyming sound is different because
rhyming
of the,
sound is different.
The emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Great.
All right.
Okay. Great.
Bear
Are you
fear.
ready?
I got it.
Okay. Here we go. I don't think this is hard, but maybe it's super hard. And if it is, I'm very sorry.
Oh, I wasn't sure if that was a clue. The way that you said. Punchy.
Okay, great. Here we go for 100. You might add these to your cart if you're buying groceries to make 2 different types of soups, one vegetable-based, one chicken-based.
Is broth one of the words?
That is correct.
Okay.
Really zoom in on the word 2.
Both broths?
Correct.
There we
or
go.
both broth. Yeah.
Got it. All right.
Good job.
I'm like the sweat beads right now. You've really like tapped into a part of my brain that I haven't used in a while. And I'm really like the anxiety is here. It's heavy.
Also, is this like the kind of thing? Is this tapping
This
into
is
that
like,
part of your brain?
hey, I'm going to sing a song in a different, like, use the lyrics, but sing it in a different way. And that like drives me insane.
Oh, when I'm like, wait, what was it? It was like, you have to guess the song, but I'm going to use different lyrics. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Okay. I'm ready for 200.
Okay, here we go.
Right.
For 200. This is what might happen if you were to gag on the cookie mixture before it's cooked.
If you wrote a gag?
If you were to gag.
Oh, okay.
Though wrote a gag. I mean, she should be a queen if I've ever heard one before. Wrote a gag. That might be my new name. Wrote a gag.
Punchy Jeopardy. We give it to you. All right. If you were to gag on the cookie mixture
Before it's cooked.
okay. Batter is one of the words.
It's not, no. Think a little thicker than a batter, and you would have a what?
What is a dough?
Yeah.
What is a dough cough?
Correct.
There we go. I'm rubbing my temples.
You are. I was just
because
about to
I'm
say.
stressed.
I don't know why. Okay, ready for 300. This is what you might call a typeface that appears at the beginning of a document.
What is a front font?
Correct.
There we go.
You're so nervous. Okay, great. For 400. This is what you might say to me if I were to ask you, oh, I forgot to pick up beer on the way here. Should I run to the store now?
Something you haven't done. I should.
I haven't. I haven't. Things I could do. All the things I could do.
No, sorry. Say the clue again. You're screwing me up. Don't sing.
This is what you might say to me if I ask you, oh, I forgot to pick up beer on the way here. Should I run to the store now?
Beer queer?
No, the end this rhyme.
I know. Is beer one of the words?
No. This is a
command?
This is a command you would say to me if I said that to you.
Go now?
Go is one of the words.
I'm really struggling right now.
Do you want me to tell you?
I do.
We were looking for do go.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yep. And finally.
Like, what? Is my brain?
I feel like I have broken your brain this
really.
moment. Okay, we have one more.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready?
Right.
Here we go.
I'm stressed.
Rogue artificial intelligence, global warming, and nuclear war all pose this to the world.
Is Donald Trump the answer?
I mean, he could be on this list
right.
too.
Is disaster one of the words?
It's not, no. But think about like if something could happen, then it's a what?
A potential?
It is a potential.
Possible?
It is possible. Like, I don't make this. I make promises. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever heard that quote before? Just made that up.
I'm on the floor right now and I can't breathe. I don't make this.
I didn't come here to make friends. I came here to be number one.
I came here to wrote a gag. I don't know. I'm
if
really
something
hard.
could,
It's
if
really
something,
hard.
all of these things could what?
Kill us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they could cause great harm.
Right.
Something that could cause great harm is a what?
Is a menace.
Is
This
a menace.
is like, guess the word with Mike and Dustin.
The word we were looking for is threat.
Okay.
So then
A death threat.
No. We were looking for great threat.
A great threat. It's been great being on this show. There'll be a new host next week along with Dustin.
Yep. You are punchy, girl.
Mm-hmm.
This has been Gaze at the National Parks, the podcast, and we're here to remind you to hike early and hike often, and that adventure is always out there.
Gaze at the National Parks was created and is hosted by Dustin Ballard and Michael Ryan.
To see images from this episode, follow our Instagram at Gaze at the National Parks. To contact us, email us at gazeatthenationalparks@gmail.com. And to find out more about Mesa Verde and all of the parks we visit on this show, visit our website, gazeatthenationalparks.com. That's Gaze, G-A-Z-E.
All original artwork featured on Instagram and on our website is by Michael Ryan.
All original music was written by Dave Seaman and performed by Dave Seaman, Mariella Klinger, and Sean Sklios. Our music producer is Skyler Fortgang.
This episode was edited by Dustin Ballard. We would also like to acknowledge that while recording this episode, that we are on the traditional and stolen lands of the Lenape people, now known as Ocean County, New Jersey. Stay tuned for our next episodes on Mesa Verde National Park. We didn't do the knife edge.
Are you talking about the Prater Ridge Trail?
We didn't do the Prater Ridge Trail.
I know. But you're talking about a trail we didn't do right now.
We did. We did the Point Lookout Trail.
Okay.
I have a photo of the signboard.
No.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
We were just in conversation about trails we did not do.
Right.
And you were saying, like, because it's going to be muddy and because it's going to be... One of the ones we looked at doing was these other ones. And so that's what I thought you were talking about.
No. I was saying we ended up doing the... You said the Point Lookout. Go back, rewind.
No.
Yeah.
I know I said that. But we were saying there were other... You can try them. Some of the other ones that we had looked at were... That's where I'm getting confused in this conversation. Sorry.
That's okay.
You said some of the other ones that we looked at.
Just keep this argument in for that.
From the Moorfield campground, like one is the 7.8 mile Prater Ridge Trail, another being the Knife Edge Trail.
Right, but those are ones we didn't do.
I know, and I think it's important to mention them by name.
Oh, I thought I did.
I don't remember you saying that. That's why I'm confused.
I'm pretty sure
right
I
now.
did. Rewind it and go back to where we can start.